friends, it's Katie
and Alyssa,
and today we have something special for you.
We, the Hustle Humbly Gals, were asked to interview Calvert from the Rousing Housing podcast.
Right, so we have a local title attorney with a podcast about real estate investing.
It's really about a bunch of different things.
Yeah, okay, and he wanted to tell his own story, but needed someone to interview him.
Yes.
And so proceeds our interview of Calvert about
the great house move.
Moving houses, picking them up and moving them over.
What does that entail? Why would you do that?
Right.
How much does it cost?
Yes.
That's what we're about to talk about.
It was very interesting. And we went to his studio operation, which was an entertaining thing for us. So we'll post a picture of their kind of fancy up. We had to wear headphones.
Yeah, that was like a legit operation.
It was so serious. So here we go. This is the Rousing Housing as told by Hustle Humbly.
Yes. We thought you would find it interesting.
For sure. Y'all enjoy.
Hi, y'all. Welcome to Hustle Humbly. It's Alyssa and Katie, and we are two top producing realtors in the Baton Rouge market.
We work for two different companies where we should be competitors, but we have chosen community over competition.
The goal of our podcast is to encourage you to find your own way in business.
So stop comparing yourself and start embracing your strengths.
We are here, it's October 2020, back for the newest episode of the Rousing Housing podcast, which has been shut down severely due to the COVID pandemic. I had this one set to go before the COVID pandemic, and I had another one set to go. So we were just going strong, and then we shut everything down. And then I was thinking, well, I don't know if I want to have this lighthearted chat with all the hurricane was going on, and people's houses are blown away and all this kind of stuff. And I'm going, do we want to have this fun little silly chat?
Some people need a fun silly
And that's
chat.
what I've decided, that I'm aware of the badness, and maybe a little lighthearted something might be good for somebody. So
I've never known you not to be lighthearted.
Yeah, I can be serious.
Okay.
But so what we have today on Rousing Housing is we have the nice ladies from the Hustle Humbly podcast, Alissa Jenkins. Wow, I was about to almost forget who you are.
It's a lot of pressure here.
It is.
And Katie Klein-Peter Caldwell.
Oh, he's got all the names.
Yeah,
all the names.
Yeah. Alphen is
what was
Alyssa's
coming to
maiden
mind.
name. Yeah, I know. I was getting all confused. But anyway, so these two nice ladies are here who have a very popular podcast, more popular than this one. And so we're sort of cross branding. It's like, I don't know, there used to be, I can't think of it, like a sitcom where like some characters would cross over.
It's a crossover.
It
It's
is.
a crossover. And
Well, we're
so-
going to use this as one of our episodes.
Yeah, and so now you get this one for free, which is
Wow.
you may have overpaid. So anyway, what we're going to do is they're going to ask me about something I get asked about all the time is moving houses, not boxing up the stuff that's inside so that you can move to another town, but picking up a house and moving the whole house to another place, because I've done that a couple of times, and it's apparently everybody doesn't do that. No. Even in the world of real estate investing and real estate stuff, people don't do it. So I've been posting some pictures of a big house that I moved and remodeled and kind of put out the final product video just to kind of show the end. And I'm coming back now, editing right now with all sorts of construction pictures and the moving pictures, because that's always kind of crazy when you see them moving the house and tearing it down and putting it back up. But
well, I know in season
here we go.
You kind of talked about why you're moving the houses.
What did I say?
Well, you talked a little bit about how your investments are all in this one place,
right?
And how you're kind of transforming this little area.
Right.
Why don't you share quickly for our listeners too, where you have been investing, why are you focused on this area so much so that you would move houses to stay within your area?
Yeah, so real quick, when I started all this, I don't know, when I decided I was going to do real estate investing, and I was looking around, and our market here, and this has been, I think I bought my first house about 10 years ago. The market here was pretty high at the time, and I really didn't want to come in on the top of something. I didn't see that as a way to appreciate. Didn't have any money. Still don't have any money because I got kids. And so, I was looking for something that I thought would be low-cost barrier to entry with some appreciation. And so I am from a place called Mansfield, Louisiana, in the northwest corner of the state, 30 miles south of Shreveport. And just 8 miles to the north of that is the village of Grand Cane, which is a little small community of about, I don't know, I think the census numbers are going to jump from like 300 to 320 or something. Because of me in part, I've moved in some people. So it's a historic little village, not a town, it's a village. It's got a historic little downtown with a very active historic and civic organization. They have a community theater. They have one restaurant. They had two, but one closed, and now I think it's a daycare. They got some antique shops, that kind of stuff, a quilt shop that I've not been into, but I was interested to go in there. A bank, a Dollar General now, which is huge in rural communities.
Okay, right.
It is, we kind of think of it as kind of low end, right? But when you're in a rural community and you're miles away from the Walmart, the Dollar General is like the general store.
Right.
And I don't know if you've ever been in one of those things. They're awesome. They
are pretty awesome.
All sorts of stuff.
Everything.
So now there's one right there, and it's right next to one of my properties. So when it goes vacant, I always say you can walk to the Dollar General, and people usually are all over it.
Location.
Okay. So anyway, I saw this place. There's a chunk of historic homes. There's this active civic association. It's on a nice 4-lane highway that can get you up to Shreveport for the stuff you need. It can get you down to the Toledo Bend area. So I saw it kind of having some fundamentals and being cheap, and I thought there was room for a lot of appreciation and improvement.
How many years ago did you buy your first one there?
I think it's 10 years.
How cheap was it 10 years ago for you to invest in your first property there?
$37,000.
You didn't move that house.
No, but look at this segue, Alyssa. $37,000. I got a house and a big lot next door.
Okay.
So renovated that house, and my contractor, because I was not self-contracting at the time, I was talking to him. He's like, "What are you going to do with that lot over there?" And I said, "Well, I gotta burn that pile of junk that's over there and get all that cleaned up, and then I'm going to do something with it." I wasn't sure, and he says, "Well, okay, I'll stop with."
No, it's good.
No, I like it.
I'll stop with the imitation of that guy. But anyway, he said that I think it was his father had purchased an older home that was going to be demolished because the highway was getting widened.
Okay.
And he moved it. He bought it real cheap and moved it. It was like already renovated, and it was like a sweet deal to buy and move this house. And I was like, it just like a bell went off. I was like, that's it. That's what I need to do. I need to find a great
for that particular
cheap,
lot.
Old house, and I'm going to put it right there, and it's going to look. Because also, I built a house over in Capitol Heights at some point. I don't know what year that was, 2012 maybe.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Built and sold a spec house, and learned that I built the house that I wanted to build, which was really beautiful and wonderful, and over budget. And there was no. It was not a good investment because I lead with aesthetic and not with finances.
Sure.
And so it is beautiful. It's still a beautiful house, and it is sold again for a much higher price. But anyway, I thought, well, I'll build that kind of house on this lot because it would look right, because that's important to me, that it matches the house next door. Anyway, so I said to build it, it's going to be too expensive for this market. And so anyway, that's when I started looking for houses to move.
Oh.
Yeah.
That just wouldn't have been my first go-to. Like, oh, well, if I can't build it, I'll just move one here. Like, what sparked that idea to even think about that?
It was the contractor, to be fair.
Well, I think he inadvertently just went straight to my heart, because that's where this is.
Okay.
I'm a lover of old houses and old buildings and architecture, and I hate to I think I did talk about this in one of the podcasts about I hate to waste.
Yes.
And so, like, when I see a house torn down, it just
so sad.
It hurts your heart.
Well, it's not even. It's almost like my brain is like, malfunctioning because it's like, why would you do that when you could?
Okay, well, this really leads me into one of the questions I wrote before I came, which was, is it more about the investment and the financial part moving the house, or is it more about the preservation and the reusing of that house, like saving the house, if you will?
All right, so I know my wife's not listening to this. So in my mind, in the words that I say, it's about both and being able to do it and accomplish both things. However, I've done this twice now. The first one has worked out well as an investment. Okay, so that went well. The second one is not a good investment. It is and I guess this is kind of like the basics of house moving finances. It's like this one is a good investment and this one's a statement piece.
Got it.
Right.
So the first one went well and the second one didn't?
Yeah, and I mean,
You successfully preserved the second one.
Oh yeah, it's a masterpiece. It's beautiful.
Okay. But
tell us what's determining like success.
Right. That's a great question.
Well,
Let's talk about the first one. Start from the beginning.
okay.
The first one that you moved.
Well, so back up again just a little bit. So I'm looking for houses and I'm eyeballing houses in the area that I think I had a abortive attempt at one house, and I really liked it. I liked the style, and the lady was going to give it to me. And then I called the house mover, and he told me how much. And I thought at that time that was a ridiculous price. And he was also telling me he was going to have to cut the roof. I thought you just kind of picked it up and moved it,
Okay.
right? And so that first one that I was eyeballing, she was going to give it to me.
Like literally,
Yeah,
give
just
you
take
the
it. I
house.
want you to get rid of this house,
Okay.
which is super common.
Right.
I was gonna say
It really is, and then you find out the cost, and then it doesn't sound so good anymore. But so also I couldn't really get past the fact that we were going to have to kind of take the roof down and cut off.
Make
a
it
part.
into pieces.
Yeah, and I couldn't, and so anyway, I scrapped that. So,
But wait, will you tell us the price
of what?
your
to
initial
move the
price.
house? Whenever they said we'll move
Okay.
the house for X,
As
what was it?
As I recall, that price on the first one that I did not do was $19,000.
Okay.
To move the house to
And I-
Grand Cane.
Yes.
Okay.
And the
How far was the move?
the distance for that one, or all of them, is 8 miles. That's the distance.
That you're taking them.
Yeah, and that is not where the price comes from.
Okay.
The distance is somewhat immaterial
Okay.
because once they get it loaded, as they say, in the house moving, they can go anywhere.
It's
Okay?
getting it loaded and unloaded. That's the
Yeah, chopping
expensive
it,
part.
disassembling, reassembling. Okay, so that one didn't work, and I just kind of was like, and so I was looking casually with the idea of moving, and I don't know anything on this lot, and so I'm just kind of looking for what I want, right, out of this style-wise, etc. And so I had a couple that I had my eye on that I think, these are going to be for sale one day or would look good, yada, yada, yada. And so one of them pops up. And so we go look at it, and it's great. And it was a foreclosure. And I thought the price was right, not really knowing anything. And so the lady says, the real estate agent who had it listed up there, the foreclosure, she says, well, you like this one? I got another one right over here.
Oh.
Oh.
And I said, yeah, let's go look. Well, that one, the other one, not the one that caught my eye, but the second one she showed me that was also a foreclosure, was really what I had in mind for the lot, whereas the one that caught my eye online was more of a statement piece. And that's exactly what happened. So I bought them both together at the same time. The smaller of the two, I moved first.
Okay.
Okay, so that's the one that's been a good investment.
Okay.
When you bought these two, did you have to buy the land also?
That was my next
Yeah,
question.
yeah, you
So
get the whole thing. There's no, you guys know that when you close on
So after
something, you
you
don't
move-
have a
right.
closing for the house
so
and a
after
closing
you
for
move the house,
What
you...
What do you do with that lot?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So, another good lesson. So the first one that I moved was located directly behind St. Joseph's Catholic Church in Mansfield, Louisiana.
Okay.
And so the lady let me know, she said, I think the church really wants to buy this because it's been vacant and people are parking and walking through, and it's a house, it's bad for them, and they just want to fence off. So I bought it and then contacted the church and said, do you want this lot? And they were like, yeah, we were going to pay X amount for the lot. And I was like, you can have it.
Oh, you donated it to the church, but like for tax purposes?
write-off.
There is a way to do the tax write-off. I'll suggest that you contact your CPA for that.
Fine.
Because it's kind of great.
So
But
you moved the house and sold the lot or donated the lot.
yeah, and so, but also here's the other thing. I've done 2 now, and I learned something each time. And so I just didn't think about this. You're not going to think about this. So they jack it up. They rip off. Oh, this house was super old. And so it had concrete asbestos shingles, right? So they ripped those off and threw them away. I don't know where they were, what they did with those. The rule on that, if you don't know, is you don't have to have a license or anything to demolish that stuff. You just have to take it to an appropriate landfill.
Okay.
That's the rule on that, and you probably shouldn't eat it. So underneath that was the original wooden shingles. Okay, so they rip off those concrete asbestos things, and I guess they took them where they were supposed to. I don't know. That wasn't my job. And so then there are all these old shingles and all this other decking and stuff that they had to take the roof down a little ways, and so they just dump all that. And then there was a carport on the back that was not getting moved, and they kind of just like knocked that over.
And left it on your lot.
Yeah, and so you don't think about this. And then there was some other junk, debris. And so they move it off, and you think, oh, it's just going to be this vacant lot. Well, it's not. There's junk everywhere.
Oh, no.
And think of all the stuff underneath houses.
Yeah. And you think, and like the way they have to do it, unless you're really careful, which I was not either time, I might be next time, the brick piers, they have to kind of demolish those to get in there and work. So there's a pile of, and they're all broken. So you can't do it. So there's a pile of bricks and all this lumber and these old shingles and stuff. And I'm like, oh, this looks awful. Yeah. And so, you turn that into lemonade, and the church said, we'll take it. We'll clean it all up.
Oh, even better.
Which they did.
Great.
Now, the second house, I have a nasty looking vacant lot right now.
You still have it?
Yeah, that I need to do something with.
What is the end game there? You'd sell the lot?
I don't really have an end game on that one. It's got some enormous pine trees on it that I might cut and get some custom wood out of.
Okay.
I don't know. Part of the reason that one needed to be moved is the highway got straightened out, and the highway's a lot closer.
Right there, okay.
It's not, it's a lot closer than it was for the first 100 years of that house's life. And so it could potentially have a commercial value one day. I don't know. Probably not. So
this first house that you moved, you brought it to your lot in Grand Cane.
Yep.
And then what was the process of putting it back together?
All right. So here's the process of the whole house moving. Here's some tips. Maybe I'll some tips for everybody that wants to know. Okay?
For all the house movers out there.
Yeah. So
there's going to be a rush on house.
Yeah, right. I know. I really shouldn't be doing this because now everybody's going to know all the secrets.
Giving all the secrets.
So there's sort of a height maximum, because if you get to a certain height, you hit power lines, and in order to get the power lines lowered or raised, it's an ordeal. So it's cost prohibitive unless you're moving Oak Alley or something, right? Where you can't touch it because it's so beautiful and perfect and valuable. But for just a regular sort of house like I'm moving, you say, we can't pay the utility company to do this, so they have to take something off.
Something off,
off the house?
The roof.
Something off.
Okay, that's why the roof was taken off.
Yeah, so they cut that gable and fold it down, basically.
Uh-huh.
And then they jack it up and they put the steel beams under it. And this is all hydraulic stuff now. And so it's kind of scientific, raise it up. And then they get to the site, right?
Wait, you skipped is there a police escort? Like, is it,
Well-
what happens in between?
Yeah, there is a police escort, and both times I was purposefully not there.
You like, I can't
Yeah,
watch
I could
this.
not. I could not. I had some people go, and I was getting like texts and videos. But here's the crazy thing: once they start, it's fast.
Yeah, well, 8
It's
miles,
done.
I guess.
So once they get there, that was your question. So once they get there, well, so I had to go and lay out where it was supposed to go. So I staked that a couple of times. The last time there was some survey issues. I had to get the surveyor to do it. But the first time I was able to put the front door here, and then that's really kind of all you do.
Right.
But the second one, I did have to get a surveyor to locate that.
So did you have to get a foundation company to come put piers in the proper plate? No? Okay.
No, so that's kind of
The house mover?
the house mover does that. That's part of his job. And so it's pier and beam, remember?
Yeah.
So what's called for under the building code is, okay, so 100 years ago, you just got these bricks and you built a little thing. You just stuck the bricks on the ground. Well, sort of the difference now is you have to pour a footing of a certain size, and then you got to put concrete blocks, and you have these hurricane straps go into the footing, and so the house won't blow off.
Right.
Right? So that's what they do. And so what I didn't know, I bet you didn't know it either, is you don't build those till the house gets there.
Oh.
You would think you would have that built and you'd set the house down on top of it,
that's
right?
What I would
Nope.
think. No.
That's because you don't exactly know. The house may not be square because it's 100 years old and you moved it 8 miles.
Might have flexed a little on the
Might
way.
have flexed, right? So they get there on the trailer, which is like a big I-beam, and they raise it up, and then some guy comes and gets right underneath it and starts digging and pouring and
Underneath.
building all the piers.
Uh-huh.
And then they set it down.
Right, because the hydraulic just goes up and down.
Yeah.
How long does that take? They can do that in an afternoon?
No, that's where it gets more complicated. So here's the way the process works. So they get there one day, and it depends. So
On the weather?
So the first step is to get it jacked up.
Okay.
Okay, and so they can jack it up, and it can sit there forever.
Right.
It could live
Okay.
on jacks.
It could live on jacks because it's all hydraulic, it's all steel, it's straight, it's not bending the house or anything. It's just
Right.
propped
I
up.
had a home inspection one time where the inspector was like, there are no piers, the house is on jacks.
Well, guess
Okay,
it's possible.
did you buy it?
No, but we did negotiate
A
that-
real foundation.
A real foundation.
Yeah, a real foundation.
Fair.
Sure.
Yeah. They were like, oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah, well, whatever.
So it could
That's
stay
what
that
happened.
way,
Yeah.
but it's just not
So
the way
they
it's
jack
done.
it up, and then it might be the weather. And the weather on both of these things was an issue every time.
What time of year?
Oh, good question. Well, it gets back to the jack up and wait and then move. On the second house, they had to cut it.
Right.
So it wasn't
like down the middle?
No.
That's what I like to picture. Just like
I know.
straight down the
No
middle.
segments like front room, dining room,
Oh, wow.
4 pieces.
And then they like lined them up?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. And I'll post some pictures at some point.
That would be lovely.
So, and what's weird is, so they cut it into 4 pieces, and the way the truck fit in there, they pulled the centerpiece out first, kind of like Jenga,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So they pull it out, and then there's just like a head and a tail and nothing in the middle,
Wow.
like the magician sawing the lady, right, in the box.
Love it.
All right. So, but wait, what was the question?
Time of year.
Time of year. You want to do it in the summer because
Agree.
of the rain,
Right.
but
Because it dries out faster if it does rain. Even if it rains in the summer, in the winter, it
yeah,
takes longer for it to
absolutely.
dry.
So,
So once it's jacked up, they can start.
once it's jacked
your
up, they can
footings?
send you their first bill.
That's what I was going to ask you.
Oh,
Are they
okay.
charging you a per day use of this hydraulic
Nope,
jack
nope, nope.
operation?
The way it works is it's 3 bills.
Oh, okay.
Okay. When they get on site and get it jacked up, I think you owe a third of the
Okay.
total price.
Okay.
When they get all the pieces moved to the new spot, a second third.
Okay.
When it gets set down, finished, yada, 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 the final third.
Okay.
What if it doesn't make it there?
What kind of waiver
Yeah.
did you sign?
Yeah.
Yeah, no,
What happens if something happens?
they have insurance.
And,
And
did
so-
you have to come up with a price ahead of time? Like, if this house doesn't make it the 8
No,
mile
just send me your
journey-
insurance.
Oh, it's insured for an amount. Like the
Yeah.
actual house.
Yeah.
Okay.
So there are only like a handful of house movers. There's only like 2 in the state, and actually this one I use is from East Texas.
Okay.
And he's a 3rd-generation house mover. He's on a reality
Wow.
TV show.
Wow.
cool.
Yeah.
What was the reality TV show called?
Texas Flip and Move,
Love it.
something like that.
Okay.
Wow.
So it's pretty high.
I wonder how many they've lost.
I wonder.
don't know.
I wonder how many they move. Period in a
A
year.
lot,
In
a
a year,
lot,
a lot.
yeah. All over
Oh.
Texas, all over.
So how long does it take to get the foundation?
All right, so the foundation is one of the things that takes a longer time. So they jack it up one day, and then another day, which may be literally months later, they move it there, right? And so on my second one, where I had the survey trying to get it in the right spot, so they say, okay, we're there, come look. And then, of course, it's 3.5 hours away, so I couldn't go for a while. And I get like, no, this is in the wrong, do you see this flag? It's the corner's supposed to be on this flag. Oh, okay. So then they come back the next
They
day
just
with
move
the
it
bobcats and everything, and
Wow.
they roll it back over and put it in the right spot. So then they start, well, after they got there in those 4 pieces, then they crunch it back together,
Okay.
right? It gets all pushed back together and then in the right spot. Then they start on the foundation, which it seems like there's like one old guy up there doing that. So
Okay.
it takes like a week or something. I
To
don't
get
know,
the job done.
to get the job done, and then they lower it. Then they reassemble the roof. No, that's wrong. That's wrong. They reassembled the roof first.
Okay.
Well, here's my question. They reassembled the roof from the pieces they threw in a pile on the lot?
No, not the decking, but the rafters or the
Just
joist.
the rafters.
Yeah.
Okay.
They-
You had to get
they-
a roofing company
New
then
roof.
to come and put on the roof?
They take it back to felt paper.
Got it. Blacked in.
Yep. And then you call your roofer who puts the shingles on.
Okay.
How does the siding go back together?
Yeah, was it
Does
all
it look
wood
like
siding?
there's straight lines
Yeah.
where it connected, or do they redo the siding, or do they?
I'll post some pictures, but I was not there when they cut the big one.
Mm-hmm.
But I was there after they cut it, because they cut it and jacked it up, or jacked it up and cut it. I can't remember what the order was, but the line, the cut line is incredibly straight. I don't know how they do, and it's like TV. It's like they cut the whole thing right in, like the roof, the ceiling. It's all like
the
they
way through.
took a
So it
giant
seems
laser
like those
beam.
lines would stay there.
Well, all right. So in my big house that was cut into 4 pieces, the 3 cuts were at seams, so they were at the wall.
Okay.
So the baseboard comes off, and they cut it
inside,
right there.
but on the outside.
So on the outside, it was the same thing, except for in 2 spots. In 2 spots, it went right through the middle of a beautiful window. So we had to take the interior and exterior window trim out and the window out, and then they cut it, and they stuck it back together. And then the window and all the interior and exterior trim go back on, and there's a really thin cut.
Yeah.
And you caulk it and paint it.
Yeah, because
and
it's painted.
yeah, and you're not going to
What kind of
notice.
siding is this? Wood?
It's cypress. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So what about? It seems like you would be limited on where you could tell them to put the front door based on how do I connect these toilets to sewer, and how does all
No,
Pier
no,
and
no.
beam is a little easier.
Oh,
huh?
pier and beam is easy on that front.
Okay.
So there was no for either one of these places. There was no sewer connection, no water connection, no utilities.
So
Nothing
the-
on
So
the
you put it
lots.
wherever you want, and then you run it to it.
These lots had never had a structure on them.
The second one, the big one, had. There was
Okay.
an old house there that burned down maybe in the 50s.
But like had a septic tank or
Yeah,
something.
yeah.
Okay.
I wasn't reusing any utilities or anything.
Got it.
Very interesting.
Very
That's
interesting.
it. We're all
So
done.
they just connect it from the street and run it to where you need it once your house.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
once your house is secure. Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
Because once the house, when do the house movers check out? They put the rafters back on Black Ewan, and then they take the jack and they roll out, and you're left with a renovation, right?
That's right. At that point, it's just an old house renovation.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Huh. And on the so I know where the lot came from on the first one, but how did you choose the lot for the second one?
That's a good question, Katie. So, The second rental I bought was right behind the first one, and guess what? It came with a lot also.
Oh.
Except for I really didn't want to put the house there because I didn't think it was right.
Mm-hmm.
But I couldn't find another lot, and I had this big house that I had bought that was just sitting there, and I was like, I got to do something. And so we put it there, and it works.
So these houses just have big yards?
Basically, in Grand Cane, all the houses, the original plat of the town or the village, the lots are like 25 feet wide, except for everybody lives on like 4
Of the lots.
of the lots.
Yeah.
Oh.
So
Okay.
if you have a little house on 2, then maybe you had 2 extra on the side.
But they're basically already subdivided.
Oh, yeah,
so
absolutely.
you could do whatever you want with
Yep,
the other lots.
Okay.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
But you need a small house to put on 25 feet.
There's not one house up there that's on.
They're all on 2 lots at
They're
least.
on. All of them are on 2 lots, if not,
More.
5. you know.
Okay, so on the big house that you moved to the lot next to the rental, how big was the lot? Was big enough for the bigger house, but was it 1 lot or 2?
It is. Might be 2.5.
These
can't
are really
remember.
hard-hitting questions.
I know.
It might be 2.5.
Okay, so once the house is moved,
Uh-huh.
how long did it take you to renovate?
Too long.
Okay. Because
This
you
is-
don't live
this-
there.
This is
because-
about house moving, not house renovation.
Right.
So-
Fine. Okay.
Can you give me like the PowerPoint version of like renovated it, rented it, and now it's income producing?
Would you ever sell it? Answer that and that. Like, you want to hold on to it
Okay, so
Quickly tell us what happens after the house is finished.
now. Go.
after I've moved a house and it's renovated,
Mm-hmm.
well, in these 2 instances, they're both rented.
Okay.
Okay.
I moved.
That's your goal, is to have
Well,
rentals.
No, the it was on the first one, and
Okay.
that's very successful.
Okay.
The second one, I sort of thought maybe
You could resell it.
no, that my mom was going to move into it because she talked about that,
Oh.
and then she was not interested in that, and then I was like, oh, she'll change her mind, and because it's a much bigger, nicer. It would not be ideal for a rental.
Okay.
So we just kind of started on that, and I just kind of went with it.
Got it.
And then
So it's not rented right now?
it is.
Okay.
'Cause-
You decided to keep it
Because
and rent
mom,
it?
mom
Well,
didn't want it.
Yeah, she made it known very clearly she was not interested.
Does she live in Grand Cane?
No, she does not.
So she didn't want to
lives-
move there.
She did not.
Although
She-
it's 30
well,
minutes?
oh,
Where she lives? Where does she live
No, it's
now?
10 minutes, 12
Oh,
minutes.
okay. It's not far.
She didn't want this big house.
Got
It's-
it.
It's very
How
big.
big is it? How many square feet?
It's about right at 2,000 with about another 800 in porches. It's got a lot of
Wow.
That
porches.
sounds pretty.
They moved all
It's
the
beautiful.
porches?
Yeah, all the porches on this house were under the same roof line.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like a box with something just stuck on.
You know what we missed? How
What?
old are these 2 houses?
I don't know. That first one, I really don't know. It's pretty old. Once, like I say, I told you that it had wooden shingles
Yeah.
underneath.
Like over 100 years
Yeah, turn of century. And then the
Okay.
second one, I think, is about 1912 or so.
old? Okay.
So what was I saying?
Yeah.
We were just kind of going off on a tangent. So
Right.
did the city did you get any kind of historical credits or anything?
That's a good question. So a little bit of a odd loophole almost on historic tax credits. The village of Grand Cane is in what is known as a state cultural district, which
Okay.
is not quite the same as a historic district, but it's kind of the same.
Still special.
Still special. And so what gives it a cultural vibe, if you will, is history. Right? And so I don't want to say it's a loophole, it's just nobody does it, is if you move a house into that district that has a certain character, you can do it. You can get your historic tax credits.
So Grand Cane is happy with you.
He's going to be the mayor one day.
That's what I was going to ask. Will you be the? Tell us this. Will you be the mayor of Grand
I don't
Cane?
think so. I've cleaned up and fixed up couple of houses there, and that I think has made people happy. I think there was some resistance to the moving issue on some people's thoughts. I didn't have any hostility or anything, but it's a small place, and I think some people
they're not great with change.
Well, it's also kind of unusual.
Yeah.
Like, who's this guy bringing in these new houses?
So anyway, back to the historic tax credit thing, and this sort of angle is that I did get both of those houses approved as contributing elements to the cultural district by the State Department of Historic.
Yada yada.
Yada yada.
Mm-hmm.
I ultimately made the decision not to do the renovation in a way that got me the credits. So it's a 3-step process.
Got it.
If y'all know anything about that, it's another podcast. So I did step 1 and stopped.
Okay.
So basically, I have a piece of paper that says this thing contributes. It looks good.
Right.
But then I didn't do everything else that I was supposed to do.
Okay.
So what should one budget if they wanted to move a house?
That's a great.
Right, because you were upset with the $19,000.
That was before I knew anything.
Now tell us.
Tell us what we're looking at.
Well, I'll tell you. I don't like to say these numbers out loud, but I'll do the math real quick here on my phone.
Okay, great. We'll just talk amongst ourselves
I will do
that.
the math, and if anybody wants to solve backwards and get the answer. And then the other one.
All right, we've talked about what is the hardest part of putting them back together? What's the hardest part of putting it back together?
He can't do math and answer questions, Katie.
Yeah.
Alyssa, what do you think is the hardest part of putting them back together?
I still don't understand how the siding can look the same.
It's not gonna. Well, it's painted. It's painted wood.
Yeah, but would you have a straight line down?
No.
It's just like a seam, like that seam in that wall right there. You see that?
Okay, but it's in a corner. It's
right.
It's not
but if
cut
you
here.
flatten that wall out, it would still just be, and you can.
Okay.
But if you make the paint and caulk thick enough, you're not going to
It'll
ever
be
know.
fine.
It's 1/4 of an inch.
Yeah. Okay.
It goes back together incredibly accurately, which is an amazing
That's
thing.
pretty good.
Yeah.
You know when they're trying to piece floors and they have to remove bigger sections so that they can lay them to flow back together? That's what I was picturing you would have to do. But you just cut it and paint it.
Yeah, you're not. Yes, I see what you're saying. You're not interlaying it like
That's
you
what
would.
I thought you would have to do.
No. You're just taking one solid wall of siding and just cutting down
like
it,
a
making
giant saw went through
a
it.
giant cut,
Okay.
and then button it right back to each other. So you're looking at like, what did I just do here? Somewhere between $18 to $35, $36 a foot on the moving.
Oh my word. Okay.
So
What is $35 a foot times 2,000 square feet?
a lot.
Can you do that?
That's
math?
what it is.
Fast math says that's
That's
a lot.
what it is. But there are other factors. So the number of cuts, the number of pieces.
Okay, that's a good question. It's not
so-
just that the house is bigger. The one that went into 4 pieces is more complicated than 2
It
pieces.
is. It's not like a rectangle.
Right.
It's like
Do my $70,000 calculations kind of land
you're
in
in the ballpark. Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh man.
So that's like
Good news. You're not selling anybody on this operation.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's all yours.
so if you wanted to do it, and what I still look for occasionally, if I want to do this again,
You would move another one?
I
Okay, so
would.
you like it.
So what you would look for ideally from an investment standard, is pretty close to what I did on the first one, is a rectangle.
Yeah.
You want a nice rectangle that's not too long. So if it gets a certain length,
Oh.
you have to cut it. All right. So I
Okay.
think it's like 40 feet or something.
Did you say you did not have to cut your first one?
It not long ways, just on the top because
Right.
it's too tall.
How many square feet is that house? The
That
first
house
one?
was about 1,300 originally, but it had an attic with a nice staircase that we
Okay.
finished out. It had not been finished before. We finished into a bedroom and bath.
Okay, but
So
for
that
the sake
made
of
it
moving,
about-
you only had to pay for 1,300 square feet.
Yeah, I think that's right.
Okay.
As I recall. But it came with this big, awesome barn storage building.
Oh.
It was like, it must have been like the first Sears storage building that you could buy.
Yeah.
Because it was clearly like not a homemade thing,
Uh-huh.
but it was also all this wood floor. It's like really solid, so it was huge. So I got that as part of the deal, and I used that for storage for my
They had to move that too.
which was some extra bucks.
I bet.
But it didn't have to be cut or anything. Just popped it up and took it.
So, are you still looking, like if a good opportunity comes up on a house that you don't have to move, are you still buying houses in Grand Cane?
To move?
No, like
to-
if you're keeping an eye on your area in Grand Cane and a house comes up close to yours,
Yeah.
are you snatching it up?
Yeah.
But you would also be willing to move.
Yeah, I have my eye on a couple to move right now.
Okay, but you don't
But
approach those people. You wait for them to.
Well, I could. I mean, there's a lot of, in these dying, dead small towns, there's a lot of old houses just sitting around.
Yeah.
So it just kind of becomes like, which one do I want?
Oh.
And, what's the current status of it and what's it going to cost to move? And do I have any place to move it, which would be a big problem right now. I don't have any place to move one.
I think my biggest thing would be like, what am I going to do with these lots in this location now that the house is gone? And I don't want these lots. I just wanted the house.
Yeah. Well, and I've not done it, but you could certainly negotiate. And I have one that I have looked at that I would just say, I'm going to buy this house. I don't want this lot.
That was
because I think it's this particular one. I think the lot's probably got some commercial value.
Okay.
And so they've tried to sell the house as part of the commercial thing. And I think if I said, let me take the house and you keep this lot, I think it'd probably work out for them.
So you don't have any lots right now waiting?
Nope, I don't.
You would have to have a lot before you found the house to move.
And I'm always looking for lots too.
Uh-huh.
And are they hard to come by there?
Yes.
Really?
There's a nice chunk of vacant ones, but nobody wants to sell them.
Oh.
Why?
I don't know.
Huh. That's very
Very odd. Okay. So we did the moving cost on the other two. But you didn't. What did you pay for those houses? One you just got, right? Or did you paid for both of
I
them?
bought two of them at the same time.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And it was pretty cheap.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, a lot of times people want to give them away. And that's all I've looked at is give it away or foreclosures that are super cheap. That's so take the first one. I think that one cost, depending on how I allocate, I think the first one was $5,000 or $10,000
For the
house. And then I had a free lot.
Yeah.
So that works.
Yeah.
Right.
So if you
Even with the cost of the move, it makes
even with
sense.
the cost of the move and a pretty big renovation, that works.
Okay, in that area, you said there were two foreclosures. Are there a lot of 100-year-old houses with mortgages on them? Like, what is the demographic of people here?
I know one that I'm looking at. It is in foreclosure. It's not that. It's probably from the 20s, maybe.
Okay. That's pretty old.
Dying. That's the demographic. Dying
Yeah,
and poor.
Right. Well,
Right.
okay. It's interesting.
But yeah, I mean, you can drive. Okay, so the other members of the house moving club here in town that you may know, Mike Dwyron,
oh,
yes.
yeah.
who sort of is the godfather of Capitol Heights. He
Right.
started buying these little shotgun houses in North Baton Rouge and moving them into these little vacant lots. And,
Okay. Oh,
right?
yeah.
And so he did this and really made it work. And then the other one is Dudley Gaddis. I don't know if y'all know.
Oh,
He's a realtor.
He's a realtor, yeah.
He got this absolutely, and I saw it, and my wife said, no, quit looking at it, up near Woodville, Mississippi. This beautiful, beautiful turn-of-the-century house in a beautiful setting. And if you go into Natchez or Monroe or Jackson, you go by there and you see it. It's so beautiful. And one day there's like this big spray-painted sign, free house.
Oh
And so my wife and
gosh.
I don't know where we were going, somewhere up there, and she's like,
my
nope,
dream.
nope, don't.
You can't have it.
Nope, don't. And I was like, and it's so big, and so I was just like, I can't even.
So he got the free house?
So he had the same idea, and he did it.
Where did he put
That's
it?
He put it, it's in the
amazing.
back of University Acres or University Hills. I
Okay,
got them
fine.
confused.
So, an older neighborhood.
Yeah, and he had like 3 lots that he had bought. And
Wow.
big, huge, and it's beautiful.
Amazing.
And so I'd seen it right after he moved it, but I haven't been back. And so he did a big, huge renovation. But I mean, it's
Okay, I have 2 house moving experiences. Not that I moved a house.
okay.
My husband's grandmother, his family lives on the Washita River in Jonesville, Louisiana.
Yeah.
And her house was on the river. And as the river kept getting closer. It's a meandering river. So as it moves, they had to pick her house up and just move it backwards.
Right.
So not far,
Right.
like, 2 football fields.
Right.
And all the land was theirs. And now the river still keeps
And they got to do it
keeps
again?
getting closer.
Oh my
I mean, I guess we'll see
gosh.
what happens. But already her driveway has fallen into the river, the trees. Jay had to take down their old smokehouse because the river just keeps getting
Edging its
closer.
way.
Yeah, it's just the way that they move. If the
See,
Mississippi
That makes sense. I was kind of wondering to myself, like, I wonder what other reasons people move
move-
houses.
Well,
for.
there's a lot of that if you go down the Mississippi River
Mm-hmm.
when they built the levees after the 27 flood. So many of those old structures were right on
On
the
it.
levee,
Mm-hmm.
and so they've scooched them back.
yeah, you have to move
So
them.
some of those, even those really big historic plantation homes, they've just scooched back, just like Katie's saying.
Yeah.
Mm.
And then I sold one house that had been moved before on Tiger Bend. It used to be on Government, and it was the first, I think it was the freed black school. It was a home, and it had been a home, and then there was a school in it. And then someone in the 70s, I don't even know who, moved this house, picked it up from Government, and took it all the way to Tiger Bend. So what do we
Wow.
call that? 10 miles,
That's
10,
a long,
15 miles?
that's a long way
pretty-
in traffic sort of stuff,
well,
not a
in the
country
70s,
road.
right. So, and then they moved it onto 6 acres, and my people went to go buy it. But when they moved it in the 70s, they, cut the house, however they cut it, and they moved it. Then they, I'm doing my air quotes, renovated it, but in the 1970s. So, like, the master bathroom was like 70s, and this is beautiful house that was built in like 1812 or something. And then they renovated the kitchen. It was just, so my people bought it and kind of took it to the studs and historically renovate, like
Awesome.
made sense to what it was. So that was an interesting one.
Well, some of the other, I can tell you a couple of other sort of notable houses moved in our areas. There's a house on Government Street, where the barbecue place is next to the nursery. Thank
Yes,
you.
yeah, yeah.
Okay. So if you go back towards downtown a little bit, there is a big, beautiful, like 2-story mansion looking house. That was originally downtown and it got moved.
Wow.
A big 2-story. So there's that one. That one's kind of big. There's another one on Goodwood, a Victorian, with a lot of frilly stuff. That's
Yeah.
got like sort of a historical paint scheme, like plum and pink sort
Oh,
of
it's
stuff.
always some kind of pink
Yeah,
and white.
that's that Victorian stuff. That one came from downtown. Okay, and then another one is on Highland. You probably never noticed Highland, close to Lee. Okay,
Uh-huh.
there is a little. It's like a Creole cottage, and there is a attorney that was at Taylor Porter for 100 years, Robert Hodges. He just died, and he was real big in the historic preservation movement in the state. He moved that one from somewhere I can't remember, and he won awards.
Oh, for the
And-
way he restored
and
it.
so it's very you wouldn't notice it because it's just sort of it's small, and it's kind of tight through there of a lot of houses, but right kind of where that water tower is
yeah.
right there.
I know what
It's
you're talking
kind of
about. It was like a,
close to that. There was a bank there, a
Yeah,
little tiny bank,
I could
kind of
picture it.
almost across from there. So that's from a pure historic preservation perspective. The historic people do not like you moving the houses.
They want you
because
to restore it
where it is.
That would
Yeah.
make sense.
Yeah, because it's like, Washington slept here
Yeah.
and
Right.
here, not here and over there.
Right.
But, it's hard sometimes when the highway moves and the river moves and
Right.
the demographics change.
Yeah.
And it's like, for me, that's kind of my thing. It's like either I save it this way or it's
Or
not going to
someone's-
it's not going to get saved.
Okay. What's the coolest thing that you found in one of these old houses when it was or did they find anything and tell you, or they find the money in the walls and the,
Right,
the house
yeah.
mover gets
Well,
it?
there's no money, so
Okay.
my painter on the big house that I just moved, I'll have to find it, when they were scraping off the paint, somebody had written on the back porch in pencil this little tiny message, and it almost looks like war is over. And then there's a date, and we just can't quite
Figure out
make
what
it
it
out.
says.
I've sent it to a bunch of
That's
people.
So cool.
So I don't know if it was the war is over or
Wow.
Katie's a jerk. You
Yeah.
can't quite. I mean, it could be
Never
that.
know.
It could be one of
Never
those.
know.
In that same house, so I was trying to find people that live there to kind of figure out what it looked like, and I did. I found a lady that lived there in sort of her childhood to her teens that I found, and we're Facebook friends, and we talk and all this. Yeah, she's great. So, and she loves the house, and she's so excited, and I've got a little video from her that I'm going to post when we get some of this other stuff done. So the guys were taking down, what were they taking? The sheetrock, or... Yeah, that was it. They took the sheetrock down. Underneath the sheetrock was wallpaper. Behind the wallpaper was a little drawing that this lady had done. It was like Snoopy or something with like a little inspirational quote.
Oh, yeah.
When she was like a teenage girl.
Oh.
And it was like perfect. And so I got it, and that had already come. I was like, "Hey, do you remember this?" Well, she's like crying. She's like, "Oh, I did that when I was," and I remember. It's just like, yes. And so I mailed it to her, and she's got it. So that was pretty cool.
Sweet.
It wasn't super old, like from the 70s, but
So if some people prefer to restore in place,
yeah, not move it.
right? That's my question. Is these houses are 8 miles away from your preferred location in Grand Cane, but you just want to go through moving them to keep them all in Grand Cane? Why not expand 8 miles and expand your area? You just like to move them.
Are the houses now...
Gee, honey, thanks.
Right.
You sound like my wife.
Are the houses now walkable to something? Like, what's the draw of where you've moved them?
Well, you're infilling in a historic setting,
Right.
So
it's more desirable.
yeah, and so now
Better
it's
for
more
appreciation.
it's more dense. You've created more instead of like old house, new house, lot. Now it's like, well, now there's another old house, and it looks like it's always been there.
Okay, makes
That's pretty
sense.
cool.
Yeah.
So
But you don't want to be 8 miles away. Like you want your houses all together there.
well, it's just worked that way.
Okay. But would you
I mean-
be open to buying
Not
one?
really, not at this point, because
Right.
everything I've built this little thing of this little cluster, and so
Right.
it helps with management and everything that they're all right there,
Yeah.
Sure.
and not spread out. Even though right there is 3.5 hours away from me.
Right.
Yeah.
That's why I was thinking 3.5 hours. What's 8 miles?
Right.
To
Yeah.
just keep them all.
Well, okay, so let me tell you. So it used to be I moved the first house. I had the other house that was sitting before it was moved. And then I had the rental houses. And then I'd go up, I'd stay with my mom. Then I'd have to go by and check on the house that was still sitting there. And then I'd have to go to the rental house. Then I'd have to come back. And it was like I was going all around to look at all these houses. And so now they're all in one spot. So I don't have to make one
How
trip.
many do you have total in Grand Cane?
I have 8 units. One's a duplex.
Okay.
Mm.
So
Very nice.
They
Yeah.
stay occupied.
yeah,
Doesn't seem like there would be a lot of turnover. Seems like people would stay.
yeah, it's weird. What I've learned is I don't do well with my 2-bedroom, 1-baths.
Okay.
People want a 3-bedroom, 2-bath.
They outgrow it or
Yeah.
These
So-
old houses had 2 bathrooms? The ones you moved?
Yeah, the ones I move have 2 bathrooms,
Oh,
2.5 on one.
Really?
But like, some of my other ones are 2 bedrooms, 1 bath.
Yeah.
And this is not about house moving. I wind up somebody like I've got like a lot of single ladies. Okay, I don't know, like they get divorced and they need a soft place to land, and so I've got
Happens.
like low maintenance. Small place. Well, then they get married again, right?
Oh,
and
darn
so now they're leaving.
That's
Yeah.
the turn.
Yeah. So it's
So
like
it's the circle of life.
for a while I had it was like this parade of all these women getting divorced and needing a place to live, and I was like,
I'm here for you.
Yeah, I'm here for your rent money. But
Katie, did we answer your house moving questions?
Good news.
We did.
I got all of them
got them all
answered.
answered?
Did we? Were you hoping we would ask something? Anything else we should know? I feel like
Yeah,
there's
like
so
what?
much.
What else
We don't know what we don't know.
Would you recommend someone to do this?
Yeah, all right. So that's an issue, is trying to. The original guy that I talked to that time, it was like 19,000. He was like the guy everybody said, "Oh, you got to call him." And so finally, when I changed my mind, said I want to do it, he was out of the business
Oh, he was like, forget this.
because
There's not many others.
there's not many others. There is, I can't think of the guy's name. There's a guy over in Rain, Louisiana.
Okay.
There's, what's it called? Davy Shoring. A lot of the business in that industry is about elevation for flood stuff. There's also a big portion of moving stuff out of flood zones.
Yeah.
All right. There's some portable banks, like when a bank sets up, right?
Oh.
Like we're going to start a new branch on the interstate over
right,
here. And so
okay.
before we can build one, we're going to get this portable bank building from the portable bank building people.
Right.
So there's that. They refer to what I do as the historics. That's what the house mover, and that's not as common or profitable for them. It's the raising, it's the moving, the highways coming through. I know my guy did something where some big, huge public works project just like took out a neighborhood and they moved them all, something like that. So the historics, I think, are getting less and less.
Okay.
But it is kind of neat that your passion for this can be investments. And even if the investment costs more money up front than you initially thought, hopefully over time you would recoup that with rent. And eventually over time you would recoup your money back.
Yeah.
Appreciation, rent income. Like you'll get your money back, sounds like.
One
Just
day.
a matter of when.
One day. Yeah.
When.
If you live long enough, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's the guy that I use is out of Marshall, Texas, which is about an hour from Shreveport. And he goes a pretty wide, I don't know,
If you found a house today and called him, what does he say? Oh, I have an opening in 6 months.
No, it's a huge wait. It's a
Longer
huge wait.
than 6 months?
It's just going to depend.
Oh, wow.
Maybe. Yeah, so you got to call them because it's so weather dependent because.
And the jack is basically stuck until they get the foundation. Like he can't go move another house.
Yeah. So, I mean, he's got a lot of equipment and stuff,
Right.
and so he's able to kind of plan it out. Like I've got these 3 here, and so then I'm going to take that one out and I'll move it over there. But
So would it be like a year?
yeah, it could be.
Okay.
So you've
Wow.
kind of got to. That's why it makes it hard from an investment standpoint because it's not like, oh, I'm going to buy this house and this weekend we're going to start renovating.
No.
Right.
Your
It's
holding
like-
cost is high.
Yeah, it's like I'm waiting on the house mover to show up, and then it starts raining.
Right.
So then
Right.
they take it apart, and the roof's
yeah.
down, and they've got all these tarps nailed up and everything. And then it starts raining, and then some water comes in. You freak out. And
Okay,
then,
this is my next question then. What systems, what is left in the house that when you move it, do you have to change out all of the air conditioning and the plumbing? Like how much of it are you really are you just getting a frame? Like
yeah, you just get the point of this is you're getting the history and the charm, which basically comes down to high ceilings, floors, windows.
So the floors make it.
doors. Oh yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
All the windows.
Okay.
So that's if you were to go build a house.
You couldn't get this quality
Yeah,
material.
if you said I want 12-foot ceilings and I want these huge windows and I want all these kind of real wood, awesome
it's
doors.
all the wood.
Yeah,
Your kitchen cabinets survive? Or do you
they did not. I
Okay.
mean these kitchen cabinets and well,
Wou-
no, I
wouldn't
take
have
that back.
anyway.
I take that back. In my first house, they did. I reused those because they were like ugly 70s wood, but they were solid wood and kind of plain and in a good layout. So we just painted them and I put some granite countertops on top of
Great.
them, and those turned out good. And the second house, I was going to, and then I finally was like, these are not good. So we trashed those, which was a good decision, and got new cabinets. Mm-hmm. But they absolutely could. But so a good tip that I still didn't learn very well is you really need to get everything out before you move it.
Everything you want to keep.
No, everything that you don't want.
Oh.
And so, like the
That
first
would
one,
make sense.
well, because here's what happens: you're waiting. I'm just let's go, and then finally they show up one day. You're like, hey, here I come to get the house, and you're like, oh, that's pretty much how it is. It's
yeah.
like
when they're ready, you have to be ready.
and then there's 6 o'clock one morning. We're on our way, and so there's like pipes and wires and stuff that you just don't think about, right? And then you get to the new place and you're like, oh, look at all this garbage that's attached to this house. And then you pull it off and now you've got a pile of garbage at the new place.
You should have left it
Yeah.
with the pile of garbage at the other place.
That is correct. And the same
and you
is
had time at that time.
yeah,
'cause
yeah,
you're
but
just
you weren't
waiting.
thinking. You weren't thinking. You're
Right.
just thinking, I just want to get this house moved and then I'll start fixing. But
Right.
I
There's
did
a
a
lot
little.
you could do
Yeah.
ahead of time.
I did on the second one. I did some more demo and removal of stuff. But one thing that I really should have done is, and here's this is a tip and a problem. The house had good sheetrock, right, it will crack and buckle when they move. Okay, and so some of it, there's a big, huge crack and buckle. That's not going to make it, right? So you just rip that out and throw it away after you get to the new place.
Mm-hmm.
And then some, we had this situation where, oh, it looks great. We just need to paint it. Well, then it started falling.
Right.
And next time, all the sheetrock goes before we move. We're not going to try. You wind up to save this one ceiling. You're doing all this
harder work.
Yeah. But now here's the problem. This is an unexpected house moving or old house renovation thing. So finally, the ceiling in one room it's all buckled. So just rip it down and we'll put some new sheetrock up. Well, all of that old sheetrock was nailed up with nails. And there are about 42 trillion nails in the ceiling. And you can't just put the sheetrock up on that. So you have to spend like 2 days pulling out the nails.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So
Never would have thought.
you wouldn't have, right? And then your carpenter's like, well, we'll be done in a week after pulling all these nails. And you're just like, cha-ching,
oh,
cha-ching,
gosh.
cha-ching.
Right.
So, yeah, next time all the sheetrock is going to go before we move. And
So you're learning every time you learn.
yeah, sure.
But you
Sure.
enjoy the process. You learn something every time.
On the whole.
Yeah.
Yeah, there are days.
It's
I think I
exciting.
posted, there's a post I think I did on, I don't know if it was on Facebook, I guess, of when this house that I just did, it got there. And so it's all pulled apart. And I had just bought this rent house next door and was tearing it all up. And so there was just like garbage and junk everywhere. And I'm in this house and it's pulled apart and there's tarps everywhere and it started pouring rain. And so I'm looking out the window at this other house I own that's not rented because it's all torn up because I just bought it. And then I'm like looking at this huge thing that I just paid a fortune for. And there's tarps and rain and it's just like,
What have I done?
yeah.
There's a recovery period you have to go through before
Yeah.
you do it again.
Yeah, I'm in recovery right now.
Sweet.
Yeah.
How long has it been since your last move?
Well, I mean, we just got finished up like maybe last week with like
Oh,
the
my
final.
word.
The final renovation.
Yeah, like putting in the bars in the closets.
Mhm.
and,
Okay. Is someone living there now?
They're about to move.
Sweet.
I'm shifting a long-term tenant. They're very excited to move in.
Oh.
That's good.
It's going to be
You're
good.
upgrading them.
Yeah.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Yeah, it's going to work out well.
Oh, well, too bad, Mom.
Yep.
Yeah.
No problem.
That's
No
okay.
problem.
Well, anything else that we missed?
I don't know. I don't think so.
Awesome. I feel very informed.
Yeah. Did you feel like you learned something?
Yeah.
For sure.
Do you want to move a house now?
Nope.
There was a house, I think I even sent it to you, on Brentwood
Yep.
and Jefferson.
Yep.
Cutest house. I couldn't understand why it wasn't selling. And it was because it was only the house for sale, not the land.
Oh.
They wanted somebody to come
And
take
move
the
it.
house. And it was a renovated, really nice
Yep.
cottage. And
what they probably didn't understand is going to be the cost to move it.
Because moving it already renovated, all that stuff's going to get messed up.
Well, I mean, you'd have a lot of value.
Right.
It would be nice.
It would be easier.
It would be easier, but it's still going to be a super high cost. And so they're selling it at a price that's basically not really discounting the land, as I recall.
right. It
And
was
so-
expensive
so-
because it was renovated.
Yeah, but when
Wow.
you add in, you got to buy a new lot and you got to move it, then you're super upside down.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Not for everyone.
Not for everyone.
Okay, well.
I love it.
And I do free consultations, which
you?
usually result in, well, no thanks, I'm not doing that.
Well, you know,
That's
when
usually
people
how that
ask you for
consultation-
advice,
Yeah.
you can refer them to this episode.
That's
Right.
right.
Yes.
And so it'll save you time.
Yes.
Because
and they'll get about halfway through and like,
Did we
Right.
miss
Click.
any questions that people normally ask you?
Yeah. What are?
No,
we
I think
got them all.
that's.
Okay,
I think we covered them.
great.
Sweet.
Well, thanks for coming, ladies.
Yeah.
Thank you for having
Very
I
us.
hope it
Interesting.
wasn't a huge waste of your time.
Never.
I enjoyed it,
It was so fun.
and there'll be some. I'll post some more pictures. I don't know if
wanna
you saw
see the
my.
pictures.
We'll
Did you see my finished
post them on our Instagram too, so
on,
we can
on
see
my
them.
the Commerce Title, YouTube, Facebook, the
Oh.
finished video of the house?
No, I need to go find it.
Yeah,
We'll find
take
it
a
and
look
post
at it
it.
because
Yeah.
that's good.
We
you,
got
you see
you.
the finished product, but so anyway, I'm going to follow that up with some construction and moving. And
I can't wait.
Perfect.
stuff.
Yeah, visuals are good.
Yep.
Awesome.
All right. Well, thanks so much.
Okay, well, thank you.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you so much for tuning in to the Hustle Humbly podcast. Let us know who we should toast to for the next episode.
Be sure to follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Hustle Humbly Podcast. If you have an episode, topic, or question, please email us at hustlehumblypodcast@gmail.com.
Be sure to subscribe to the podcast and leave a review. See you next week.
Bye.
This is the good life.